Welcome back, welcome back. We have Incheon today. Now the ship was available only 3 ways. It first came out in gambling packs, I believe last year, and it was really heavily gambled. And a lot of players are like, it's really just a Des Moines, you're losing DPM. Honestly, I don't really notice a huge difference. If we're gonna bring up the Des Moines for you, just so you can actually see that, so let's bring that up real quick. There we go. Okay, and we're gonna compare these just to really see how much DPM you're really losing. And even if it does seem like a significant amount, it really isn't, because I've had games in this and I've done fine. I've done absolutely fine. Now going right into it, economic bonuses, you remove the personal merits, and well, you do start to see it's kind of drop. That personal merits really does give me a little bit of privilege, so I would say. A lot of players that have been around for so long that have those, like the military month contributor flag, have those merits, which are really nice to have. Unfortunately, the new players don't get it, because that military month contributor flag was only available 1 May out of the game's 10 years. It's only been available once. And if you were lucky enough to get it, then kudos. You got a permanent economic boost for life. Now, upgrade-wise, main armaments 1, engine room, aiming systems. Honestly, I'm going to really recommend propulsion after playing it for so long. Concealment, and then main battery. Consumables, it gets a host of consumables, which are normal for the Pan-Asian line, for Jinan. Smoke, hydro, I wish it had hydro, but smoke, defensive fire, torpedo reload booster, and heals. And we will get into the build, of course. Now, module-wise, stock and everything, it does get a 16.5 kilometer range, and it does do 33 knots. It's actually very fast, and I've actually had a lot of ease basically repositioning. I've had a lot of fun in this ship. Armor-wise, you will get overmatched by 16-inch guns. So let's pull that away. That's your Citadel. Yeah, it is above the waterline, so there is that. Survivability-wise, 53,100, which is basically Zao health. So you're basically looking at a Zao. And for someone that loves the Zao, when I would play randoms, Zao is probably one of my favorite go-to ships in randoms. So I'm very comfortable playing this ship. Now the DPM, now let's look at this for a real second. We have a 5-second reload, 22-second 180, max dispersion, 126, max HE damage is 2,800, AP damage 5,000, 14% of chance of fire, and a 16.6 range. Now looking at the damage per minute for AP is about 500,000, about 280 for the HE. Let's go to the Des Moines. Honestly, when you look at it, it's literally the same. 490 versus 490 versus 270, 4. Sorry, I'm having a complete numbers issue. And then we look at Salem. Again, there is really not a huge issue, because look at those numbers again for Des Moines. 490,909, 270 to 274,909 versus you have a higher HE DPM and a slightly less AP DPM. I don't see what the problem is. I'll be honest, I don't see the problem. I don't see the problem with this ship. I see a little bit of less AP DPM and a lot more HE DPM. And let's be honest, what are you mainly firing in the Des Moines? What are you mainly firing? Even with American Super Heavy AP, what are you usually firing? You're firing HE. You can do AP, but you got to be able to switch back and forth. For the most part, you're shooting HE. Even in clan battles, you're shooting mainly AP or HE. You only really shoot broadsides when you have those improved ricochet angles and the American Super Heavy AP. But for the most part, probably about, let's say 80% of the time, you're shooting HE. So I'm literally going to say it right now. There is nothing wrong with this ship. And let's go back to the Des Moines for a second. 15.8 versus 16.1. Of course, you'll get a longer range on Salem because I do have the range mod, which is 18.5. So, again, between those ships, there's really nothing wrong with this ship. The ship is great. Why would I have 200, almost $250,000 XP on the ship if I didn't enjoy playing it? Like, every time I take this ship out, I have fun. Like, I have really fun. It challenges me, and it's just a fun ship. Torpedoes, again, it gets 2 quad mounts on each side. But you have to go basically broadside. And you will see in replays that I don't really use my torps. Because, yeah, they're 13.5 kilometer U-gang torps, basically. You have to go basically broadside. And remember the Citadel above the waterline? Yeah, you're going to die. So I don't use them. And remember, we compared it to the Des Moines and the Salem. The DPM, it's all about the DPM. Maneuverability, again, it is an 8.5 second rudder shift. That's why we take, well, that can be reduced. I'm sorry. I'm so used to having that on there that I don't. But that can be reduced even further with steering gears. Honestly, after playing it for so long, I've honestly gotten used to it. I don't really feel like you need it. Now, it does have an 11.5 kilometer detection. And remember, the torps are 13.5, so you can still stealth torp, but you have to go basically broadside to use it. So you could potentially really screw yourself up. Now, a lot of players would say, well, just take Jinan. Yeah, Jinan's great, but it has great DPS. Well, let's go to Jinan for a second and just look at it for the DPS. 400 and 420,000 versus 380,000. We go to Incheon. We do have a little bit less DPS on the HE, but we get a significantly higher AP damage per minute. So significant. And remember, you can heal back 100% of fires, but you can't heal back AP damage that well. So if you love the Jinan and you want something that hits a little bit harder, then get the Incheon. But let's go to the build for you. And I do recommend taking Sha Jingbing because of 2 things. And we did see this in Le Beast's replay of when he had Sha Jingbing. You get 6 torp hits and your speed goes up by 5%. Your consumable goes down on the torp booster and you get 1 more. Okay? That is a slight advantage to using it. The other, and that's why this ship is more usable, this skill is more usable in this ship, is because you get 1.5 million potential, you get a 6.5 second reload and prepare time to your consumables. Now compare that to the already enhanced consumables action time and the already preparation time. Those are stacking, so those consumables are going off even further. Now I've only activated this once, and it was at the end of an op. I will try to get you guys some footage of actually getting this activated really, far into it, early into a battle. I would really much like to really see what it does. Now, I do have Grease the Gears, Consumable Specialist, Consumable Enhancements, Adrenaline Rush, Concealment Expert, and Survivability Expert. Because, again, it is still ZOW HP. So you do need it. Other than those, points, it's really do what you want. I mean, I know it says takes superintendent, honestly, I felt like a few times I really needed it, and then there's other times where I'm like, I really don't need it. Honestly, if you're good and you know the op and you know what's coming, you don't really need this skill. If you're not the best and you want more consumables, then take it. But in all honesty, I would honestly probably go with Demolition Expert, probably Heavy HE, and then Last Stand. And then probably, of course, Incoming Fire Alert. And remember, when we do that, that does give us a slight increase on our DPS, which we take that off, we put that back on, we go up to 300,000 in DPS. And with that, we basically cross the damage of 300,000, so Jinan gets a little bit closer to DPS. It's honestly not a bad ship that everyone gives the rep for. It's a great ship. The only downside is that it was available for purchase directly, firepower containers, which are gambling, and then when it first came out, it was also gambling. That's why it was important when you could buy it for that $140. Would I recommend it for $140? No. I would not recommend it for $140. It's a fun ship. Absolutely. But if you don't have $140 laying around and want to take that investment, probably not the best. But it is a solid Pan-Asian premium that you can use to reinforce your fleet. That's the key thing about this ship. It's a decent, high-value premium trainer. It's good. It's really good. Welcome back. Welcome back. We've got Incheon today, folks. So we've got Curfers, Poison, Scarlet Thunder, Brisbane, Napoli, and a Seattle. Feel bad for Seattle. Let's see if this actually works this time. Is it going to show? No, it does not show, unfortunately. That would be nice if that mod would work in the replay. It is very entertaining and very disheartening to have that mod activated, which lets me see everyone's build, how many captains and points they have on, and what signals. It basically lets me see everything that a normal player would try to hide. And after playing with Forgotten Void and his boys, Vader and like Toxic, and they have that mod, it is actually very disheartening to see that. Yeah. I was actually kind of like, oh, this doesn't sound bad, this isn't great. And now after that I have the mod, I'm like, oh, no, this isn't great at all. This is actually very disheartening. It's like having matchmaking monitor on in randoms and you actually get to see the builds. You'd be surprised at the number of ships I've been seeing that don't even have modules. Or super low. You would think most captains would have like a 15-point captain. No, I've been seeing them that have only like 10 and 9 points and 6 points captains. I've been seeing really low captains, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? But anyway, back to the Incheon. It's a really decent cruiser. It does take it has a learning curve, a very, very steep learning curve. But I actually really enjoy this cruiser. I think it's a great cruiser. Unfortunately, the only ways you've been able to get it is to buy it outright for $140. Gamble for it. And when it first came out, you had to get lucky with the RNG. So those were the only ways to really get it. It is in the firepower containers, but that is where the gambling now comes in at. If you were able to get it this last time for $140 like I did, it's worth it. Now the reason why I'm recommending this cruiser is for one reason why I recommended the Hindenburg. There are not a lot of top tier Pan-Asian ships for this line. There's a lot of tier 9s which work, but they're mostly battleships. And there's the cut and paste like Ager that's Pan-Asian. There's the Iowa. There's all those kind of ones. So I mean, they make sense. But this one is honestly This is a league apart from all those copy and paste battleships. It's basically, it feels like a Des Moines, honestly. A Des Moines with smoke. I actually really enjoyed the Des Moines, and I've been wanting to bring it to the channel, but finding footage for that thing is really difficult. And I can do the Salem and get it much easier, but I want to get the Des Moines, so I don't really have the heart to do the Des Moines right now. I want to bring it, but it's like it's about you play it and you just hope you get the footage. And right now with flagship up, I really don't want to bring it into flagship ops because I really am disheartened by flagship. So we'll do normal ops for Des Moines. But it's basically a Des Moines. It has Des Moines guns, it has Des Moines reload, it has the 203s, and it has the pin angles. It's Des Moines. It feels like a Des Moines to me. When you buy the ship, you're getting a Des Moines. You're getting one less gun. That's one less gun. Some people might say that's a little bit of less DPM. Honestly, I'm not really feeling the difference. I feel like when I play this, I'm playing a Des Moines. A Des Moines that just has more gimmicks and viability. Which is honestly not bad, because the Des Moines is a great ship. If the Des Moines had smoke and, smoke, yeah, if it had smoke, it would actually be really fun. I would honestly enjoy a Des Moines with smoke. I think that'd be great. And I mean, we do have Rochester and Anchorage and all those, which are basically Des Moines heavy cruisers, basically, with the American cruisers. But they're not Des Moines caliber. I mean, if you want a little bit of a different play style with Des Moines, this thing is great. I love it. I mean, we're up to 109K. Not bad. Not bad at all. But you do notice that as I'm playing this, it is a little bit sluggish. It is a very sluggish cruiser. And the best way I can compare this is if you watch my Anchorage game, and I will put a link to it in Anchorage, which was my hidden bunker buster. It feels like an Anchorage. It handles like an Anchorage. It's very clumsy. Not to say it's a bad ship, you just have to have a brain. I mean, when I say you have to have a brain, you really have to have a brain, because if you really screw up, you're gonna suffer. Now, I do have Sajin being on here, and he is not a full 21 points. I believe at the time of this replay, he was 14, I think? 15, maybe? 14 or 15 points. So not a very high skill captain. I only put him on there because he gets the improved, consumables and everything. And since the ship is highly based on consumables, plus if you get the 150 potential damage, you get an increase to your consumable preparation time, which, as you can see, this thing has a lot of consumables being smoked. Defensive Hydra, torpedo reload booster, but it's only one torpedo per side, and honestly, it's more about the guns than the torps. If you're able to stack and get that ability to stack stuff, it really does make a difference. But you're putting the ship in a very haphazardous condition, because you have to go basically broadside to use those torpedoes. So it's not great. And you just see that my bow is saturated, so if I take any shells in the front, I'll get saturated damage now. Or, well, less HP taken anyway. It's not completely saturated, but it will take less damage. And that is also a downside. It doesn't have great bow and aft armor like we covered. It does have the 30mm side plating. But again, its citadel does go above the waterline. But if you can bounce stuff on that plating on the side, you will bounce 406s. And so you are tanky enough, but for the most part, for most battleships you're facing in ops, the vast majority of them, let's be honest, most of the ops you're facing are going to have ships that are going to be above 406mm. So this op is actually really decent because you're mostly fighting just American battleships, which have only 406s. So it is very tanky on this op. And you do see that the DPM allows us to just kind of go head-to-head with these Clevelands, which is very nice. And no, I haven't tried to actually tank and push the Cleveland. Or wait, I think I did actually. No, I did actually try to do that. That went fairly okay, except I kept getting caught in the radar range and I needed my smoke. And also the smoke firing penalty is not the greatest. Being like 8 points, let me see, can I bring that up? No, I cannot bring that up, unfortunately. But it's like 8.8, I believe, 8.5, 8.8. It's very high. It's above 8 kilometers. That's what I can tell you, for certain. That is basically Kutuzov, basically, just detectability. So it's not the best. So when you're playing it, you've got to be thinking ahead. And you've got to be thinking of the radar ranges. You've got to be thinking of this. You've got to be thinking of the hydro. You've got to be thinking of all these variables. And that is a lot of micromanaging, which is why I would not recommend this ship for the average player. If you're a decent ops player, I want to be my decent, I mean you're in that top like 50% or above, then it's a ship for you. If you're not that percentage range, I would not recommend the ship. Especially if you have not mastered playing Pan-Asian cruisers like Jinan, Sejong, or even if you haven't mastered those cruisers, I would not recommend this ship. Even if you haven't mastered the Minotaur yet, or the British Royal Light Cruisers, if you haven't mastered these two lines, I would not recommend this ship. If you mastered those lines, or if you feel like you can play the Brisbane competitively and pretty well in ops, then you can play this ship. But it's a very tough ship, and you do see that it does heal up pretty fast. So I'm down pretty low on HP. I'm down about a third of my way on HP, but since that's such a low HP pool, it actually can heal up pretty fast in this heal circle. And also that Napoli does have, looks like he has full flags and everything, but it isn't a full survivability build. My Napoli is full survivability build for clan battles, and it reaches 66k, so he's 4k less than what a full build Napoli would be. And yes, I would recommend putting in full survivability build, because Napoli's already extremely tanky. You do that extra tankiness, and it's going to be just a better ship. You're going to have a lot more HP you can trade, and you can be a lot more aggressive and use those secondaries. But you do see that it's AA. It doesn't look the best. It has a lot of small mounts, but honestly, I would say the AA is average, meh at best. It doesn't feel like it would repel anything in randoms. It doesn't feel like it would repel a Hakuyu on Raptor Rescue. You could probably do some work on Cherry Blossom, but those planes go easily. Hermes, I really don't think you could do much. I really don't think the AA is nothing to write home about. I really do think the main selling point is the smoke and the guns. If you love Tulsa and you can play the Tulsa, then I would honestly say that Incheon is right up your alley also. If you're good with playing these kind of cruisers in general, light cruisers that have decent guns, now see, I have to smoke a far bit of ways away, because I know these Clevelands and the Baltimore are going to come to me. Cleveland has like 9k, Baltimore has 10k radar, plus I have that 8.8 detection and smoke firing. So I have to be aware of all that. But as you can see, I can literally just sit here and just my smoke and just keep shooting. Like, it's very comfortable. And like the shell arcs are like Americans. They're actually very easy. They take a little bit of getting used to. But the damage is honestly very consistent. And see, we're basically broadside to use our armor piercing. And we're doing about 7k. 7k, 6k, you know, it adds up. You still got those pin angles that you can basically still do significant amount of damage. Like right there, we get a nice Citadel. So it's a very strong cruiser broadside. Like, it will punish. And as long as you're aware of that smoke firing penalty, you're gonna do great. I mean, we're only getting overpins. We're not doing great. But you know, when it does hit, now is a 14K hit. Like, it hits hard. It hits really hard when it hits. So on Aegis, this thing would be great if you can get into a position where you can get those broadside cruisers. It will just melt cruisers. And then you just get the reload. Because right now our reload is down to 4.6. So, I mean, like you said, we're getting Des Moines caliber reload. And it does get like Jinan smokes. Or not Jinan, but Gajimata smokes is what I compare it as. They're not as frequent as the Gajimata, but they feel like Gajimata smokes. And as playing the Gajimata in randoms, because I ground most of that line in random. And that line was extremely, Gajimata is just an amazing DD in general. Fast firing smokes. Really just a potent DD destroyer. It is such a such a very powerful destroyer. And you know, like, you don't even have to hit most of your shells off the time. I mean, just the sheer DPM in this thing is decent. Even though you might feel that one less caliber gun a little bit, but not a huge amount. I really don't think you feel it. We do lose our Poison in our Brisbane. Seattle, not looking too good.
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on full alert.
I've been also seeing a lot of GKs lately. Now see right there, we're caught in the radar range, unfortunately. Just briefly.
Smoke screen set. Enemy cruiser detected.
Unfortunately, you know, since I'm the one that's detected, it'll most likely shoot me, unfortunately. Like, it's very difficult, because I can see the damn thing. I can know it's there, I can't see it. So it is very frustrating.
Enemy cruiser destroyed. Enemy destroyer sighted.
That Scarlet Thunder and off in there, I could have dropped torps on that main, but I wasn't sure if my torps would have hit. Now remember, that CD is still basically broadside, but again, at this range, you do kind of feel that floatiness. Again, at 10 kilometers, these guns are decent. Once you start getting to that max range at 16.1, then it gets a little bit harder to ride, to really float the shells, or really make those shells land. So you do have me in the Napa League. Again, I'm not going to be top. I mean, let's be honest. We're a decent ship, but we're nowhere near as good as the Napa. Napoli is always just going to outdo most ships. If it's facing like ships like these, like Brisbane, Seattle, Incheon, absolutely Napoli's just going to wreck either of them. I'm going to come close to beating the Napoli, but not entirely close. But I'm the best cruiser out here other than the Napoli.
On the designated target.
Affirmative.
And like, we've only got like a minute, almost less than 2 minutes to kill a 30k HP CV. That seems like a lot of time, but it really isn't. especially when we're both practically almost at, you know, max to mid-range. Napoli's taking the full salvos of everything on that side, and I'm trying to catch up. Even though I know I can get those shots in there with my armor piercing, it's very difficult because it's like, you know you can do it, but it's like the way it's angled, you'll hit those flight decks, so it's like, oh, do you just use the armor piercing or the HE? Like, see, Napoli gets a decent little hit there, but see, we're doing, you know, 2,000 with HP with fire, and I am glad that they are doing the fire changes to the CV, so that the CV does take more, and we do see that Napoli gets pretty good salvo right there.
Enemy aircraft carrier destroyed. Torpedoes to starboard.
Unfortunately, he does go down, but we do manage to get the 5 stars.
Enemy destroyer detected.
You know, 9K, it adds up. Like, that constant amount of damage, you know, it adds up. It really ticks up really high when you start really getting those shots. Unfortunately, you know, we do have that DD out here. We are going to pick up this DD before the time runs out, though. Because it's low K, it's 300, and he deserves to die. So we end up with 473K. With almost 1 million credits made and a nice 5K in free XP. No torpedoes though. We just did solid guns. That's just solid gun damage. Are you, and I'm telling you, are you really going to feel that one less barrel? Not really. If you know how to aim your shots, you know how to shoot, you're not going to feel it. And like Napoli's 29.51 and we're in 29.01. So he beat us by 50 base XP. So that's still pretty damn close. But then you kind of look at, you know, going down below, then you start seeing a significant drop in team, you know, player base anyway. We did about 25K to 26K to that CV. It doesn't feel like it though. It does not feel like we did 26K to it though. We did do 60,000 to that Humphrey though. That really helped us. And you just kind of look at the DD damage, it really adds up real quickly, and just the amount of shells and just everything. We fired about, you know, 1,000 shells, and we got about 500 hits. So about a 50% hit ratio right there. Which is honestly pretty similar to what I would honestly say you would hit into Des Moines in this kind of situation. But even with all the green boosters, we still make a nice 800,000 in credits. We make again another nice 5,000 free XP, and since Shaoxi Ming's not a 21 point, we do make a nice 32K in Commander XP. So it's honestly a very solid ship. A lot of these ships being put behind gambling, they aren't readily available, but they are actually very solid ships.